1, 2, 3, 4. I won't deny it, I'm a Southsider. You don't wanna mess with me. Got the police looking for me. But I'm calm cause I'm smoking that CBD. Said I won't deny it, I'm a Southsider. You don't wanna mess with me. Got the police looking for me. But I'm chilling in the back of the VIP. Said she won't deny it, she's a former Southsider. You don't wanna mess with her. Got the police looking for her. But there's nothing that they can do when you're chilling with the Blessed Life Podcast crew. What's up, what's good?
Yeah, that's nice. I like that. That was good freestyle. That was good.
I'm Brian Tierney. This is the Blessed Life University Podcast, the BLU Podcast for short. Today we're going to be talking about relationships and all sorts of stuff that surrounds it. Here to talk with me about all that today is Lupita Valencia. She is a psychotherapist. She is a coach and a DJ, spinning the bangers on the ones and twos. What you gonna do when Lupita Valencia coming through?
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Brian, for inviting me. I'm Lupita V from Lupita V Coaching, Mental Health Consulting. I am a psychotherapist, confidence coach or performance coach, inspirational speaker. I do many things. I also have a book out available on Amazon. And yeah, I'm excited to be here to talk about relationships and stuff. I was going to say a bad word. Can we say bad words?
You can say bad words.
Okay.
I was raised by an Irish immigrant who worked on construction, and so bad words are part of my vocabulary. I've been trying to make a conscious effort to use less of them because I have a newborn baby now, and I don't want his first word to be fuck. So
Yeah, it might be shit, though.
it could be shit. I can't remember. Somebody was telling me the other day, I don't know if they were saying that in front of him a lot or something. I don't know. But we don't want that to be his first word either.
It might be. Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. I'm here to provide as much value as possible. Yeah, so usually the people that come to seek out my services are people that want to just gain confidence all around. But the things that lead them to get help is my therapy services around relationships. So everyone always comes to me around something having to do with a breakup or a spouse or, a partner, and just like problems they have within the relationship.
Yeah, and we spoke before the podcast. You mentioned that a lot of people's issues in the rest of their life all stem from the relationships and how they feel about them. And those things are all interconnected. So perhaps if they get their relationships right and their mindset surrounding their relationships right, that will carry over into the rest of their life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say if they get, yeah, absolutely. If they get the relationships right, then everything else goes well. I think it's deeper than that. When you have problems within a relationship, that means that you have problems with communication. If you have problems communication, then there's fears around like saying what you want and allowing yourself to want what you want, and then feeling safe enough to communicate that to your partner. And a lot of people just don't have the self-esteem to feel safe enough to communicate what they really want to their partners. And so that's where the problems start. Yeah, and that's men included. It's not just women that get insecure and anxious. Like, men have hearts and they, have feelings, and it's important to have that in mind too. Like when I'm helping men, it is around that. Like maybe I'm not good enough for her, or I can never get it right. The bad guy syndrome, what I call the bad guy syndrome, like a guy, he is always at fault. It's always his fault. He's always the one to blame for whatever problems are in the relationship, and that's not always true. They usually pick partners that will perpetuate that pattern or cycle. They'll pick partners that make them always the bad guy. So if they grew up and it starts in childhood, they grew up when they were little always being like, oh, he's bad, he's the bad kid, or they're the black sheep. So what's going to happen is later on in life, this reflects in school too, right? They're always the bad kid. They always have problems with teachers. There's always one teacher that they have like a great relationship with, and they end up like getting through school because of that one teacher. But they're always like the outcast or the black sheep. And then they get into relationships, and they're also the bad guy within the relationships too. But they don't notice that they're picking partners that are always the victim, right? So if you're always the villain, then you always need to have a damsel in distress, right? Like Joker finds, Batman's like girlfriend or whatever, right? So Joker is always going to look for Batman's girlfriend. Joker's not going to be happy with Harley Quinn.
Fucking hating ass Joker. I feel like there's too many Jokers out there nowadays.
Yeah, that's good. But if you think about it, Batman and Joker have the same problem. They are always looking for a fucking victim. Like, why don't you get with somebody who doesn't need to be saved? But that's what men like. They like to feel needed.
That's true. We have to have a purpose. We have to have something to do, something to work on. I must admit that before you're coming here, in the 20 minutes of downtime that I had, I just felt guilty sitting there doing nothing. I always feel this guilty energy about like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that.
Yeah.
But another thing is, studies show that you could be doing a task that you don't like, but you'll be happy if you can do it without interruption. So I don't like starting things when I get interrupted. Unfortunately, that happens to me all the time in my job. You ever get tired of hearing your own name?
No.
Okay. Well, hang out with me during the work week, and then we'll just have them say Lupita instead.
Yeah, if you say Lupita instead of Lupita, yeah, I will get tired of that.
Okay, well then I'll say Lupita.
Yeah, thank
Lupita.
you. I appreciate it. Speaking of like staying busy, that's one of the things that I help my clients with, right? So they're so used to drama and stress. They need to constantly stay busy. So like I help them get to a place where they start feeling better about themselves, right? Their life is going great. But your brain, it takes 21 days to learn a new habit, and it takes 90 days to master it. So if you have been in this state of like stress for years, it's going to take a while for your brain to come out of it. So what happens is after the 90 days, they're feeling better, but they're not used to it. The brain isn't used to it. So they will find things to stress about. They will find things to pick at to make it so that there's a problem. And having me there and holding them accountable, like, remember, this is what your brain does. Are you sure this is something? Can we focus on you right now? Can we focus on you being happy and where you are at the moment? And that really helps them like come back to the present moment, because usually when someone is feeling anxious or depressed, they're either in the past or they're in the future. They're not in the present moment, because in the present moment we're always safe. We're always fine. So that's what I do. Like I'm helping them I'm helping them remember where they are in the present moment. And that's what mindfulness is. That's what meditation is. The purpose of meditation is not to stop your mind from thinking. The purpose of meditation is being okay with where you are in the present moment. Like not judging the thoughts, not judging yourself, and just being okay with where you are. And that's what people have a problem with. They have a problem with being okay. You were talking about road rage earlier. That's what we're talking about, right? Like getting stuck in traffic and it's so freaking hot, and then bills and just all of this stuff.
Divorce, bad jobs.
Right. But in the present moment, if you're sitting in your car, nothing is happening. Although you're not moving, you would like to be. Nothing is happening. You're fine. There's nothing wrong in that moment. But because we're thinking about the past, something that happened, or we're thinking about in the future, something that might happen, now all of a sudden there's stress that's going on within, and they just want to but yeah.
I know what you mean. A famous person once said the cause of the world's problems is man's inability to sit in a room doing nothing peacefully for more than a half hour. I don't know that that's necessarily true, but I get the sentiment of what they're saying. And I believe that yoga, meditation, dealing with stress, everyday life skills need to be more of a part of the curriculum in our schools. We teach people how to get into 9 to 5, but we don't teach them the fine points, the art of working with each other. And part of that is having good self-control and discipline yourself, because many people's first reaction is to fly off the handle. But there's, like you said, when you're sitting there in your car and like everything's passing you by, like they're the ones in motion, they're the ones in action. Like you have peace, you can wait for clear opportunities to move. You don't have to move. You can figure some shit out for a minute and then move, or whatever.
Right.
People don't realize that. I really feel that we need to teach people how to handle their emotions and their feelings and their thoughts better.
Yeah, for sure. So I used to be a teacher once upon a time, and I was teaching preschool, and I loved teaching preschool because that's when you're catching them before, everything else. And so something that I really loved doing with the kids is teaching them about emotions and being okay with however you're feeling. Even if it's a feeling that you don't want to feel. All of these feelings are human. It's a part of being a human and the human experience. I believe that we're both spiritual beings and human beings, right? And those feelings revolve around being a human. We cannot escape them. We're always going to feel them, right? Like you can be married and at some point feel lonely. It's about how we choose to respond to them. And you're so right about what is being taught in schools too, because you think most of your life, if not all your life, we are either dealing with other people or we're looking for a person or we find our person. It's all about relationships.
Focusing on others,
Yeah, well, I'm going to get into that. But it's all about relationships. Why don't we learn more about relationships in school? That you're actually like discouraged to especially in high school, like, oh, don't worry about your boyfriend or girlfriend. You don't need to worry about that right now. Just focus on school and whatever. Like, you already know with teenagers, the first thing you tell them to do, the last thing, if you tell them not to do something, that's the first thing they're going to do, right? So why not prepare them better for relationships as opposed to pretending and acting like they're not going to do it? That's just ridiculous. And it's not just like around like educating them on sex and things like that, because we're not really talking about why they're having sex and why that has value to them and what that means to them. And why are they even partaking in sexual activity in the first place?
Most of it is probably hormones and when they're young, but
yeah, but it's also because like, oh, I really like this girl or I really like this guy. I want to know what that feels like and things like that. It's not just purely biological feelings. It's also emotional and psychological and bonding and things like that. So we're not really talking about that. And since we're not talking about it, we're also not educating them on how to respond to that in a healthy way, right?
And what I meant earlier was just when I say the education system focuses on focusing on other people, what I meant was more like it prepares people for just a 9 to 5. I don't think it gives you anything deeper than that.
Yeah, I agree. I think
much deeper than that. And there's some good teachers out there too. I'm not hating. I'm just saying in general.
Well, did you go to CPS?
No,
you went to private
Irish
school.
Catholic. My parents put me in St. Joseph Grade School and then St. Joseph High School. And then finally in college, I started going to public schools.
Yeah. So in CPS, you're definitely not going to... You learn how to be a worker bee. You learn how to be a follower. You don't really learn how to be a leader. And if you do show promise in being a leader, all of the focus is funneled to those students and not focusing on other students that might show promise, right? They're only like focusing on kids that show potential instead of fostering others that could show potential. My son goes to. We live in the suburbs. I'm on the north side now.
Former South Sider.
Yeah, but they have curriculums that are very different. The curriculums are that's so south side. The airplane.
You know I'm Chicago because you could hear the airplanes going right over my head from Midway Airport.
Yeah. So the child's curriculum is based around their interests. So if you want to go into business, then you take classes in high school around business. Like they prepare you for whatever your interests are, which I think is just like amazing and great because that's something that's really helping my son right now. But what I wanted to say to that is, depending on the school that you go to, that's where they have allocated more resources to build leaders and build bosses. So if you're going to school like that, well, guess what? It's more likely that you're going to come out being a boss. My son is already a boss. He has his own business. He's working on his second business, and he's 15. Yeah, that does have to do with me because I'm an entrepreneur, right? At the same time, in freshman year, he took classes around marketing. He took classes around like the legal side of having a business, approaching customers, insurance, just all of those things. I was learning from him from the things that he was taking in high school. But anyway, all of this stuff has to do with preparing them to have goals, like real life goals, and not just like work for someone, where you have true potential to do actually anything that you are interested in, instead of, well, okay, you fall in this category, so you should do this, and you fall into that category, and you should do that, and whatever. But it's, yeah, I'm gonna stop because I can go on forever on like CPS and the education system.
One of the criticisms I've heard of the American curriculum, the American education system, is that it tends to be more one size fits all and not so much diagnostic to the type of person that you are. Are you more artistic? Are you more into science? Are you good at math? Are you more business oriented? Things like that. Whereas they just kind of, it seems like they just put you in there, everybody's learning the same things, but if you did testing on children and you saw their strengths, and that's not to say that you shouldn't work on weaknesses either, but for me, a lot of the source of disappointment that I had was not doing well in areas that I was not good at, and then having to tell your parents about it and this and that. And don't get me wrong, I think in grade school my grades were mixed, but as I got into high school and college, they began to improve. And part of that is I had ADD pretty badly when I was a kid. I was not diagnosed formally, but I know I had it. And, you know, I never got medicated for it, but they say as you grow older, you become more cognizant of it and you are better able to manage it. So I noticed that in myself. I was able to focus better as I got older, to do well on the law school admissions test, to do well on the bar exam.
What helped you focus?
It was mostly, you know, so there's probably multiple things, but it was as you get older, you realize the distractive things that are going on in your mind, the racing nature of it, the voice that you're hearing. A lot of it for me was anxiety. So when I was young, I was not a good test taker. But you have to be a good test taker to get into law school and to pass the bar exam. And so part of the issues were I was always nervous about time and I was distracted by the clock. I'm like, I would be doing a problem and I would just look like, how much time do I have? And I would check like obsessively. I would focus on other things that were going on instead of the task at hand. Minor things would distract me. But as I got older, I started to realize those things are distractions and I need to dial it in and focus. So just with every year that passed by, I think I became more focused. And so it was just becoming more aware of the things that were distractions and then learning how to control them better. And that takes awareness of the problem. The first step to solving a problem is knowing that you have one and then working on it from there. So I worked on it consciously over time, and I learned how to relax better, how to focus on grasping the concepts that were in front of me and breaking those down and solving them instead of focusing on the clock. So it was something when I was a kid, I had a hard time managing the nerves and the anxiety during those tests and things like that. I got an 18 on my ACT, which is like barely good enough to get you into like a public school or like a community college.
Mm-hmm.
I was just fortunate. My parents kind of forced me to go to college. They basically went and got the applications and made me fill them out and enrolled me. So I'm blessed that they pushed me in that direction. I think I would have been successful no matter what I do. And dealing with the stresses of the law, sometimes I think that maybe I should have been an electrician like my father, because the work day ended at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the day, and it was no more phone ringing after that, and you can go home and then just focus on family. There's a lot to be said for that, but I am happy on the path I chose, but I think I'd be happy on another path as well, no matter what I do.
Yeah. So did you have ADD, or you just didn't know how to be a good test taker?
I think I had ADD. I had hyperactivity. I also came from a home where my dad was an alcoholic as a kid. He was eventually able to stop drinking he had to stop drinking because of his cancer, and he was just no longer able to drink physically, and also the doctors were telling him, you can't do that. Sugar makes cancer more aggressive, so does alcohol. Alcohol has sugar. So he wasn't able to do that, and when his drinking stopped is when I formed a closer bond with him, because there was no longer that alcoholism standing in the way. And I acted out a lot as a kid because I couldn't beat my father. He was physically bigger than me, he was stronger than me, and I couldn't beat him, so I would take it out on other people. I was always clowning in class, right? I was getting in trouble. The principal, I may as well just had my desk there. I was always in the principal's office. I distracted the others from learning. I was always causing trouble. I was either the ringleader or one of the main event planners for trouble causing in my classes. If somebody else had something cool, a trick that I could learn from them, I was in on it and I'd help them with it. But I was always doing some shit that didn't have to do with focusing on education or the task at hand.
Yeah.
And you can't really do that in college. You know what I mean?
I mean, you can, but...
you can, but I didn't see it. Yeah. And I think they throw you the fuck out of there pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
In grade school, it's like, they're kids, whatever. High school, they're just wild savages. They finally know what testosterone's like and shit like that. So they're just a bunch of raging bulls. But in college, they'd be like, dude, people are paying like thousands and thousands of dollars to go here. You need to get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Like, it's like when a baby shits his pants or her pants. It's cute. It's like, let's wipe the baby's ass.
Right.
When an old person does, like, ugh,
yeah,
that shit's
disgusting.
nasty. You know what I mean? So it's like the contrast of, like, when they're a kid, it's like, all right, they're causing trouble. You do that shit as an adult in college, they're like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So from all of the, from my educational background and the experience that I've had as an educator and working with children, whether as an educator or as a therapist, I don't want to say that I don't believe that ADD and ADHD doesn't exist. It is very real. However, it's always connected to trauma. So if you put a child in a classroom who is going through some fucked up shit at home, guess what? It's going to be hard for them to focus. Just like an adult who is going through a breakup, do you think they're going to pay attention at work? No, they're not. They're going through some shit. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about ADD and ADHD. Like, a lot of the children that receive this diagnosis and are given medication, it's just ridiculous because there's something at home that's happening that is leading them to act this way. No one does anything for no reason, and children are a product of their environment. and that's it. So thank you so much for sharing what you shared about your dad. That is a great reason why it would be difficult for a little boy to pay attention at school. All he wanted was his dad's love, attention, and approval. And because his dad was going through stuff, it had nothing to do with the little boy, right? But because his dad was going through stuff, he wasn't getting it. And so he's going to have to try to get it somewhere else if it's not happening at home. Or he's going to try to do extreme things in order to get that attention. And all of this happens subconsciously, right? The children are not aware that they're doing this. And so for a lot of adults to be like, oh, well, they're doing it on purpose and whatever, like, there is a purpose to it, but they're not aware that they're doing it. And some kids can be aware, right? But most of the time, it doesn't come from a malicious intent. They really just want to feel supported. They really just want to feel loved. They really want to be paid attention to, right? You have a baby now. Just imagine your son growing to be like 7 years old and, not having his dad there for him and not having someone to like really be there and hug him and tell him like, oh, you're doing a great job, or oh, I think you could, do a little better, but you're doing great. You're doing great, right? Just having that sense of support when we are children is so important, and it definitely shows up at school. And medication does not, it's not like medicating them instead of giving them
It's treating
love
the
and
symptoms
support.
and not the problem.
Yeah, it's not even really treating the symptom, because there's nothing wrong with them. There's something wrong with their environment, not them, right? Like there's these
Yeah, maybe that
memes.
wasn't the right.
No,
or
yeah,
it didn't
yeah,
fit,
yeah.
But you get.
Yeah,
You get what
yeah,
I'm saying.
absolutely. There's like these memes where it says like, if a flower is not growing, right, you don't throw the flower away. You check the soil, you try to make sure to give them enough water, you make sure that there's enough sun, but you're not throwing the flower away and think that there's something wrong with the
Yeah,
flower.
you give it the nourishment that it needs.
Right. So why do we do that with humans? Why do we do that with people? And that's, and that, and then what we have later on in life from people that have ADD or ADHD, like it's difficult for me to focus. It's difficult for me to do things. Well, I can't have a healthy relationship because I have ADD. Or I can't have a healthy romantic relationship because of ADHD. And my wife wants me to always pay attention to her, and I'm just not able to do that. What we're really talking about is like focus. Like,
Yeah, and I think that was a lot of what I dealt with as a kid in school and test taking, and the inability to focus, the nerves that I felt, was that I didn't, that was just where the only place where I had to get things out of my system. And also my dad had a very demanding nature, and it was not him in and of himself, but he got that from his father. So
right.
my grandfather, he had 10 children, lived on a farm. They were physically disciplined. I think Europeans are much more open with like emotions and just maybe physical violence. I don't know. They call the Fighting Irish for a reason, right? But I would always feel the nerves of like about to be getting yelled at, or like, you didn't get this done quickly enough or whatever. So I was always checking the clock, or like, why isn't this done yet? Or you're not doing it right. Or, what I realized in my teenage years and my adult years was there's no, like, sometimes doing something the right way to tell somebody you're not doing it right, that's a matter of opinion, because as a manager at one of my jobs put simply, there's a million ways to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop. Like, you can do this, and as long as the end result is the same, it doesn't have to be one specific way. So I think that's what I was always worried about the clock for, is like, am I going to get yelled at, or am I going to, am I doing it wrong? Am I, whatever. And I was always nervous about how much time I had to do it, because if it wasn't done right and done in a certain time, then I'd be in trouble. So I think I kind of, that eased off as my dad's condition changed and he wasn't drinking anymore.
Yeah, and then you see that come up again at school. You know, like you have to finish at a certain time, and it's that the symbolism of the clock and just coming up and adding more anxiety. If that's connected at home where the clock adds anxiety, well, at school, if there's a clock and it matters, well, now it just equals anxiety, right? And so it's just that, like, your brain learned, oh my gosh, I have to finish by a certain time. And then you go to school and then they're like, okay, you only have a certain amount of time. It just triggers. Like, it's connected to trauma. It's connected to, oh shit, I might get my ass beat. I need to hurry the fuck up. And then it creates that like familiar feeling of anxiety of like, oh my gosh, what's gonna, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about trauma, right? I think a lot of mental health challenges, I don't call them issues, a lot of mental health challenges are connected, if not all of them, are connected to trauma. We're talking about bipolar trauma, depression trauma, anxiety trauma, schizophrenia trauma. Like that's all we're talking about.
Are those all curable with improvements in yourself? Do you think?
I've worked with people who had schizophrenia. Did they get cured from their schizophrenia? It depends what you call, it depends what you define being cured as. Usually what we're talking about. So here's another thing. I don't practice therapy in the traditional sense because there's so many factors and variables that are working in one person's life, right? And then you just take a sample of people and you ask them questions, right? And you're assuming that they're answering honestly. And then let's just put a book together on all of the answers of these people. And then let's study them too, right? I don't think that's indicative. I don't think that shows honest it doesn't represent the population, right? So if you're seeing things and you hear voices, then you have schizophrenia, right? But in other cultures, like Latino culture or even Native American culture, if you're seeing things, you hear voices, you're gifted. So why is that negative, right, in American society?
If it causes you to act violently outward, that would be one of them.
Right, but if
and
it
I'm not
doesn't...
saying that to be like...
No, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Sarcastic or anything.
No, yeah, I know what you're saying. In my experience, when I worked with people with schizophrenia, the thing that caused them to act out violently wasn't the voices. It was because they were experiencing a lot of stress, and then the voices did something. So when you lessen the amount of stress, then all of a sudden it's something you can live with, right? Then all of a sudden it's okay. However, you still have the label. You still have the label of schizophrenia. You still have the diagnosis of schizophrenia because you hear things and you're seeing things. I think it's the, like, all of the fucking pressure to be normal or to be perfect, right? Like, so you have days where you're feeling down and depressed. You pressure yourself so fucking hard not to feel it. And so you fall into the hole even deeper because you're trying so hard not to feel it. And what you resist persists. And so that's what happens. And that's what we practice in mindfulness and meditation. If you allow yourself to just feel whatever it is that you're not wanting to feel, it will go away faster. But because we try so hard to fight it, it lasts longer. So that includes those that are experiencing, having schizophrenic episodes, or those that are manic or anything like that, right? Bipolar. The harder they try not to feel that way, the longer it lasts. If you allow yourself to just feel it, that's why meditation is so powerful, because you're not fighting against anything. You're just allowing yourself to feel, like sitting in it. And then it relieves it, you feel a sense of relief faster than trying to fight it. You try to fight it, it will last years. It can stay for as long as you are saying that it's staying, right? But if you allow yourself to feel it, even with anxiety, like I have clients that have, or not anymore, but when they first came to me, they had anxiety. You have survived 100% of your panic attacks because you're here. So it's not going to kill you. But you fighting against it makes it last longer. That's it.
You mentioned that you have guided meditations on YouTube. What are some of the things that you do guided meditations on?
Yeah, great question. So I have guided meditations on anxiety if you're feeling anxious. They are meant to help soothe quickly. So something someone can do like in 5 to 7 minutes, maybe like, on a bathroom break. They're having like, maybe they might be feeling like they're having a panic attack, or they're just like so overwhelmed. It's something that they can do very, very quickly. I have sleep guided meditations that have very gentle and non-judgmental self-loving messages within the guided meditation, the sleep meditation, so you fall asleep to my voice, right? And then it has a lot of messages around self-love and just letting go of the judgment. Like, you're safe, everything is gonna be okay, you're doing your best, you have done your best up to this point, and just like messages like that. And other meditations that people can listen to in the morning time, like, when they want to feel empowered and inspired, like, you are gonna fucking power through this day and you're gonna do an amazing fucking job, and I can't wait to hear about it. Now get your ass out there and make it happen. Like, those are the type of meditations that I have available free on YouTube for anyone.
You have anxiety, sleep meditation, and empowerment.
Yeah. I mean, I have more than a few. There's a lot on there. Some with helping those service people that have services, right? Like, instead of having a product, they have a service to help them connect with potential clients. So guided meditation to help them get into the zone to connect with potential clients, or guided meditations for parents. So that helps them like relieve some stress and connect better with their children. Yeah, so I have like different stuff up there.
What for, like you said, like connecting with potential clients, what are some of the barriers that people have that you see or hear about to connecting with potential clients?
Relationships. And it's romantic relationships too. So if you're having a hard time with your partner, you're bringing that energy to the client relationship. If you're having a hard time, like you're going through a breakup, you're going to bring that energy to a potential client relationship. Because most likely, if you're having a hard time, that also means that you're not that great with communication, and you're not that great with transparency and honest communication. And so guess what? When you are in a service-based industry too, you're probably connecting with clients in the same way, where you're not honest and you're not great at communication. And so there's going to be some holes there, right?
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because that's all they know, or that's the bad habit that they have? You mentioned bad habits and getting into bad habit, or getting good habits, how long it takes to learn them and master them.
Yeah, why do I think that they're bad at communication, or what is the question?
Well, why is it that is it just that's the mode of operation that they're used to, that it carries over from a relationship, the white lies or the shallowness or something that they're carrying over into their client relationships? Do they think that's a formula just because it works in their relationship, or although it may not be the best relationship, we know that some bad relationships last for a long time. They carry that over then into their client relationships, thinking that will be acceptable or that will work, and then do they find out that it doesn't, or do they get some success? Like, why does that carry over you know, or, you know, why are they the same person in both places? In their relationship, their emotional, their romantic relationships, and their business relationships.
Yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. It's practiced. It's the identity that they have chosen to take up. Well, this is just the type of person that I am, but I can make money being this type of person, so that's okay. I just won't. So
Are they conscious in that? You think they
no, most of
understand
the
it?
time, and most of the time they don't make the connection. They can't
Yeah.
see that. I know some very extremely successful people that are also very, very wealthy, but and they're really good at making money, but they're not good at keeping relationships. And the same way that they make money is the same way they deal with relationships. So they have a great business. They don't have a great business model though. And so the way that they do services is that it's enough to get people through the door, but it's not enough to keep them. So they make a lot of money on the first interaction, but they don't get a lot of referrals. The turnover rate for their company is extremely high. And that eventually you're going to build a bad reputation for yourself. Eventually you're going to run out, or you're going to run this well dry.
Yeah, I've seen it happen, and I
Yeah.
wonder why those people fail to see that or realize it.
Because they're so focused on the dollar. They're not
The short
focused.
term.
Yeah, they're focused on the short term, and they're focused on the dollar. They're not focused on connecting deeper. And so when you build rapport with people, then you're able to connect deeper with them. When someone feels like they really heard you, like you're like, wow, this person, like, you know, let's take, you know, yourself, like, wow, Brian really gets me. He understands what I'm trying to do with this case, and I really trust him. This feels good. And so the inner, you know, the case is done. You do your job, and you do, you know, you, let's just say you do pretty good, right? But because they trust you so much, they will always come back because you did enough, right? You did enough, but they liked you. They felt like you connected with them. So they will always come back, and they're always going to tell everyone about you too. So they're going to send you a ton of referrals just because you connected with them on a deep level and you really made them feel like you understood them, right? Other people can get the job done, but they're not going to come back. You see, that's a difference.
Yeah, that's why the well runs dry and
Yep.
the bad reputation develops.
Yeah, and what they'll do is they'll just build another business around something else, and then it'll just continue like that. But these people are also very lonely, right? And they have a really, really big wall up around them. They don't trust anyone. They don't have a lot of moments of joy. If they do have some moments of joy, they're fleeting. They don't stay for a really long time. And
Are they very aware of their loneliness, or?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, they're aware of their loneliness, but they tell themselves, I'd rather be lonely than be in a bad relationship. Right? Then why not just work on yourself so that you have better relationships? But they also are used to being victims. Like, so people are always, oh, I'm sorry. People are always, people are always taking advantage of me. So I need to have this wall up. If you're thinking people are always taking advantage of you, then you're making yourself a victim. Then you're saying you're powerless. And that's fucking bullshit. Everyone has the power to connect with really good people, to have really good connections, and to have really good interactions. But if you're constantly, whatever, like attracts like, right? Like whatever you're thinking about, whatever you focus on, that's what you're going to attract. That's the basics of law of attraction. And that's a scientific fact. Like attracts like, right? So if you're constantly focusing on, there's so many people out there I can't trust. So the universe is like, oh, okay, you can't trust. I hear I can't trust. Let me send you more people you can't trust. It's that simple. You change your identity of like, I am a trustworthy person, and I constantly come across people that are trustworthy. Then guess what the universe sends you, or guess what God sends you? More people that are trustworthy. But if you whatever you focus on always is going to grow. It's like, when it rains, it pours, right? So, well, then guess what? When it's raining, it's going to be pouring. That if that's what you're thinking. And then our brain scientifically is set up to prove you right. So,
Like a self-confirmation bias.
yes. So this wealthy
Self-fulfilling
person,
prophecy.
yeah, absolutely. The self-fulfilling prophecy. So this wealthy person is saying, there's so many people that I can't trust. And so now here's a new person, and your brain's going to be looking for something to find to not trust about. Oh, see, I knew it. I knew it. Even if it could be like something very small, right? And something that could be, that it doesn't really have to be a big deal, but that's enough for them to be proven right. And that's one thing that I teach my clients, like, which one would you rather be? Would you rather be right, or would you rather be happy? Because your brain is going to find, your brain is so used to being right. Now you have to try something different. And so it's just that, like, practicing these little reminders of how you can allow yourself to be happy. And another thing with these wealthy people, they're also choosing people that will take advantage of them because they need to be right about this. See, you see the world. Do you see how I'm treated? The victimhood too, right? Do you see how I'm treated? Well, this is why people can't be trusted, and this is why I'm not going to trust people. All women just want a wallet, and they just want to, they just want money, and that's all they want. Then they go and look for a woman that is probably only looking for money to be proven right. But they're also not conscious of this. They're also not aware that they're doing this. But they don't like their life necessarily, right? So they're like, something is off. I don't like this. I'm really unhappy. And I don't know why people keep on taking advantage of me. And I don't know why I feel so lonely all the time. And they don't realize that they're doing it to themselves. They don't realize that they are giving away their power and refusing to just like be powerful and show up powerful within these interactions. Like, your money is not enough. You got to really own being a person of integrity in order to attract that. And that's not what those aren't beliefs that they subscribe to.
I see, I'm thinking of a particular situation where somebody I know, the guy's like one of the best guys you'd ever meet, right? Mm-hmm. The guy's good looking, he's in shape, he's an all-around good person, he's got a good character. Mm-hmm. And this person that he was with for a while would find these perceived flaws and then tell him about them and then say, this is why I'm not with you. But I know, or that I don't want to be with you, or that this is not working out. But I know that person, and I feel like, this lady is being like picky, right? Or that perhaps what you were saying is the case, that they're just the need to be right. They find reasons to break up with them, or they find perceived flaws and then they confirm that they're right, but then they end up being lonely at the end of the day, and they don't realize they walked away from something good. So they don't even realize that they're doing that, but then they have this poor me syndrome of, I'm alone, I can never find the right person. Like, you had somebody good, you just picked them apart with what you perceive to be flaws, real or imagined, and wrote them off.
That's,
it's sad. I see it all too often.
It's really sad. But the thing is that in that case, like, so it sounds like you're talking about the woman that was picking apart the guy, and then like, there's that whole, like, break up and poor me, like, my heart is broken. The thing is that if there's so many things wrong with this person, then that tells me that this person was not, this woman, let's just call her Jessica. Everybody knows a Jessica, right? Jessica picked this guy that she probably wasn't really into. And she tried to make it work because he was such a good guy. And now Jessica's trying to change him into something that Jessica wants. That's not how you're supposed to date. You accept the person how they are, right? You fall in love with the person that is in front of you as opposed to trying to change them and make them into something that they're not. Jessica probably wasn't confident enough to go after what she really wanted. So she settled for this guy and made him feel like shit, and then made it like, my heart is broken now because we're broken up because he refuses to change or whatever. Like, girl, you should have never settled in the first place. And this guy, why did he stay after she was picking him apart, within the first week? Then be out of there. Then you deserve better than be picked apart by someone who isn't being loving toward you. Right? So both of them are at fault. I don't believe that any one person is more responsible than the other. Even when we're talking about narcissism and things like that, people just like blow me up. They blow me up on social media when I talk about like narcissists and narcissism because...
Well, that's big in society.
Yeah, but what we're really talking about, again, is trauma. That's what we're talking about. So a lot of victims or abused people that were abused by narcissists, right? That had narcissistic abuse. Narcissistic abuse, they never put their hands on them or anything like that. At least most of the cases, right? Then later on in domestic abuse, we're talking about domestic abuse. That's completely different, right? For those that have come across narcissists or say that he had narcissism, number one, narcissism is a diagnosis. No one can give a diagnosis of narcissism unless you are a mental health professional. So all of these women that are calling these people, calling these dudes narcissists, all of these dudes that are calling these women narcissists, like, unless you have read the DSM and you are, it's the manual that mental health professionals use, right?
For their diagnosis,
yeah.
It's like a guide of diagnosis.
Yes. Yeah. So
if you exhibit these characteristics and these actions or manifestations, like, this is your diagnosis.
Right, and it has to be under observation as well. So
you have to be observing that person. You have to treat them in order to make that diagnosis.
Yes.
It's
yeah.
not like you just get some hearsay and you're like, yep, that's
right.
a narcissist.
And you can't just read the DSM and say like, oh yeah, they have narcissism. No, there's a lot that goes into that. It has to be a mental health professional to give this diagnosis. We have training around that, right? But what they like to say is they are predators. Those that are narcissists, they are predators. For every predator, there is a prey. So what are you doing to be prey? And they don't like that question. But are you saying it's my fault? And blah, like, when I was younger, I was raped when I was 5, and I was molested as a little girl years after that. And I can tell you from my own experience from sexual trauma and working with children that were both prey and predator, predators look for something specific. They're not looking for the child that has high self-esteem and that is outgoing and that has a very just great understanding of the world. They're not going to pick that kid. The predator is going to pick the kid that's the lonely one in the corner, that doesn't have a lot to lose, but at the same time desperately wants to be paid attention to, desperately wants to be loved, and is waiting for the opportunity to give to someone, right? And so
how do they sense that? Is it's visual observation? It's
really easy. You just watch. If you're around kids, it's really easy to see. You could tell which kids are the ones that have a higher self-esteem than the ones that don't. That's it. Like, you're not gonna pick the one that's like, happy and having a great time and talking to everyone and looks like they are just in a great place in their life, because those are the same kids. And even the most in some cases, some of the children that are the you're not gonna pick that kid, because that kid is so outgoing. They're the first one to be like, stranger danger, stranger danger. They have no problem like screaming it, right? But the ones that are disobedient, or the ones that always need to follow the rules but are very quiet, they're going to want to please. They're going to want to follow the rules.
What does self-esteem mean to you in terms of, does it mean that the person knows their value or they know what they want? How would you define self-esteem?
That's a really good question. How I would define self-esteem, just outside of like
They know their own value.
academia. Yeah, like having self-esteem is, yeah, let's just put it simply, knowing your worth. And knowing your worth at like a base, at a foundational level, right? When you have high self-esteem, that
They
means
have
like
stuff to lose,
you really,
as
really,
opposed, like you mentioned earlier, to people who don't have anything to lose,
Right.
or don't have as much to lose.
right. So they have, meaning they have stuff to lose, like, no, this is mine. You can't touch me. No, this is mine, and that's not okay, right? As opposed to someone who has low self-esteem, like, take it, sure, it's yours. What can I do to, and if the predator shows like, oh my gosh, I love that you did that. You're so amazing. You're so wonderful.
Rewards them for the
Yes.
bad behavior.
Yeah.
Or not bad behavior, but just
For the
not
desired
valuing
behavior.
themselves,
Yeah.
valuing the things that they have. And
Right. Rewarding them because they don't get rewarded, right? They don't get paid attention to. They're just basically paying attention to them.
So
That's all they're doing.
any kind of reward is a good reward.
Yes.
Even if it's manipulative, even if it turns out to be bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in the adult sense, when we're talking about narcissism, that's what we're talking about as well. We're talking about people that are not, they don't have a healthy self-esteem, right? They don't feel good about themselves. So they are susceptible to predators. They are susceptible to people treating them like shit because they so desperately want to give. They're so desperately wanting to please, and they don't have boundaries. They don't have boundaries.
How do you reverse that?
You practice, how do you reverse, how do you have
How do
healthy
you change
self-esteem,
that? Yeah.
and how do you have boundaries?
Going from somebody who never really had it, who had trauma that they never really dealt with in a meaningful way, and how do they then turn that around?
Yeah, that's such a great question. They have to want it first, right? Like you said earlier in the podcast, that you have to know that you have a problem in order to want to fix it. They have to admit that that this is a problem for them. They have to admit that, yeah, I let people go too far. Yeah, I don't say no when I really want to say no. I don't put my foot down when I should put my foot down. I don't speak up for myself when I should speak up for myself. And what happens is when we don't do those things, if we're really hard on ourselves, and this has a lot to do with childhood, what we heard growing up, when we don't stick up for ourselves, when we don't put our foot down, it makes us feel like shit and it eats at us. And then when this person comes back around again and it feeds us a little bit, like it makes us feel better, but then this person is still wanting you to break your boundaries. This person is still making you feel like shit a little bit, but still feeding you the positive reinforcement, right? Even if it's not so great, it's just enough to keep you not feeling that much like shit. But and then when they're not around, now you're back to who you are, or who you believe you are, which is feeling like shit. I'm not worth anything. I'm only worth something when this person is around. So it's recognizing, like having the self-awareness that this is a problem and that you don't want to feel like shit. And that's not healthy love. Healthy love wouldn't lead you to feel like shit.
Do you think that people in general know what they want? Just general people that you deal with in everyday life, not even clients, just people in general in schools, in the workplace, in the restaurants that you go to. Do you think that they know what they want, they have goals, or that they have things that they value, or do they just get by and they get caught up in the 9 to 5 or whatever?
No, I think yes and no. Yes and no to your question. I think that 100% they know what they want. They always know what they want. And most of the time they know how to get it. But it's the will and what other people will think about what they want, so they don't let themselves want it. Like, well, what will people say if I wanted this? Where would that take me? So, for example, this is what I work with my clients around money. We do money work too. Like, so if a person wants to be rich, right? Things keep on happening where they self-sabotage. And so it's like, I don't know why I can't seem to end up getting past this number. A lot of my clients have had lots of money and then they lost it. And then they get lots of money again and then they lose it again. So they're just like, I don't know why this keeps happening. And it's their mindset around money. Like, money is the root of all evil. You and I were talking about that earlier. Money is the root of all evil.
One of my dad's African-American friends told him that it's the lack of money that's the root of all evil. But that's an aside. But yes, money is the root of all evil. Yes. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, no,
detract.
that's great. No. That's good. But it's like, if I become rich, then my friends might not, or people might want to take advantage of me if I become rich. And I don't like that. I like where I am now. And all of this is subconscious. They don't notice that they're doing these things. And so that's what happens. Like, if I become rich, then people want to take advantage of me and I'm going to lose friends. And so I don't want to do that. So it's better that I don't become rich. Or I became rich and this woman took advantage of me. It's just better that I'm poor, because then women won't want to take advantage of me. That's not going to change anything. It's the women that you're picking. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank account. You're still going to pick a woman that's going to take advantage of you. There's poor one of those too, right? So it's that, like, allowing yourself to want what you want. What do you want? I want to be rich. And what's keeping you from being rich? And then we like connect the dots around that. Usually it has to do with how people see them, what people think of them. That is so powerful, especially when we're talking about self-esteem too. Like, if someone has low self-esteem, they care about what other people think. That's it. That's what's keeping them down. Because if they had high self-esteem, then they wouldn't give a fuck.
I personally, I feel like there's a lot of people and a lot of their actions that just seem very foreign to me. And I always felt that I was a confident person in many ways. Like, many people fear public speaking. They say that's the number one fear. But I feel that I am in control when I am public speaking, because the eyes are on me, and it's my choice what I do with those eyes. Where I go, they are there to listen. That is a passive activity. And if they heckle, they're a fucking asshole, right? So everybody gets to see the asshole in the room. You don't even have to barely point that out, right? So I always feel more in control when I'm doing that. And then I feel that I know what I want. I that's why things are simple for me. Decisions are easy because I know what I want. I also don't give a shit what people think. In terms of the people who I know that I have integrity, so the people that question that or nitpick, it's instantaneous. I know that if they knew me or if they were genuine, they would know that, you know, they're just nitpicking. They're full of shit. They're bullshitters. So I feel like I don't judge myself in terms of what other people are doing. I only compete against myself. I'm always trying to be better than I was yesterday. And I'm not perfect. But I feel like that's one of the things that have, one or two of the things that have got me to where I'm at, is that, number one, I know what I want, and number two, I don't care so much about what other people think.
Yeah.
What I don't know really where that came from. I feel a lot of it was like my natural disposition since I was a kid, because even though I acted out a lot when I was a kid, I was still very confident. I was very social, but it took a lot of trial and error to figure out the art of it very well, where I would have been easily able to make friends with people from all walks of life. And so I just am wondering how I can unlock that and teach it to other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can I get them to really know what they want and really pursue it, or to not settle for less? How do you get to the bottom of it and really get them to eliminate the distractions? Is it they have to deal with the trauma themselves first? Is it?
Yeah, they have to do the inner work. They have to do the inner work. It's making the connections, and it also has to do with belief systems. So I had written down like a couple of relationship questions, like why you keep going back, why you keep going back to your ex, or why you keep on letting your ex come back. It's a belief system around things have to be hard. Love is hard. So what is going to make love hard? Well, I can't let this person go, but I also can't be happy. But I can't let them go, but I can't be happy. But I can't see, it makes it hard. Now I'm proving the brain right. See that? And so it's around belief systems. What are these beliefs that they have? And a belief is just a thought you keep thinking. That's all a belief. It doesn't make it true. Like, is love hard? I don't think so. I think doing it wrong is hard. I think when you really love someone, most of the things are easy to do. It's just like a no-brainer. Like, yeah, I love my wife and I want to be there for her. Is it hard sometimes because I get busy? Yeah, but most of the time I could be there for her. It doesn't have to be hard. But for other people, it seems to be hard because that's what they believe. Like, something I talk about having to do with money. And I'm not sure if you'll be able to understand this, but like a lot of Latinos, and this is not culture specific, but a lot of Latinos think like, que te tienes que chingar por el dinero. Like you have to bust your ass really hard for the money, for the money that you earn. And if you want a lot of money, well, you have to bust your ass even harder.
Is that for yourself or for others though? Why is that the mentality?
That's the mentality for everyone. And if you didn't bust your ass, then you didn't earn it. And it came too easy for you and you don't deserve it. And that is ridiculous because we know lots of rich people that do not work at all, if any, and they make lots of money and do not bust their ass. And then you got these guys at Home Depot that want to get picked up and just like work really hard in these laborious jobs, and they don't get paid a lot of money either, right? So that belief is very popular, but it's not true. Like, you don't need to work so hard to make a lot of money. It's about working smarter, not harder, right? But a lot of people have that belief. That's the same thing around love. Like, it has to feel hard. It has to feel like they really earned it. The truth is, a man that knows what he wants, it's not going to be hard for him to get with a woman who also knows what she wants, and they find each other at the right place and things go well. That's the truth of it. If they both know what they want, it's not going to be hard. She knows that she wants you. You know that you want her. He knows that she has standards. He meets them. She knows he has standards. She meets them. Done. Right? But we have this belief around love has to be hard. And so then we make it hard. Then we find things to prove ourselves right, to make this belief right. The other, like when I was talking about why you keep going back to, one of the reasons why they don't let go is because of probably a belief that, what if I don't find better? What if I'm not good enough?
It's fear.
And this is the best I can find. This is the best I can get. I had that fear a while ago when I was in my last breakup. Like, he treated me like a goddess, like a princess. It was great, but at the same time there were just a lot of other things, and we were just in different chapters in our lives. It was just not gonna work. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what if I never find anyone like you again? And he's like, oh my god, you're gorgeous, you're amazing, like of course you're gonna find somebody. And I'm just like, no, don't leave me, right? And then that led me to writing my book. But it was that belief that I had, like, what if I never find another person that will treat me like a goddess again? Which
It's the fear of losing.
the
Losing
fear
something.
of not feeling like that again. But I wasn't seeing that I wasn't doing that for myself. So there was only one person in my life that was treating me like a goddess and a princess, and it wasn't me. I gave that power to this other person. Now, if I'm treating myself like that, then I wouldn't be afraid of losing someone who didn't want to stick around because I'm treating myself that way, right? Like that's the same with a man. If he's so afraid to let go of this woman because she is the only person that's loving him, he is not loving himself. He is not giving himself some love and some worth in whatever that looks like for him, right? He's not treating himself like a king. He's not treating himself or speaking to himself like a king. And so when that happens and you lose this person, now you have like this massive loss instead of like, well, here's a person that didn't see my value, or here's a person that we just weren't right together. And that's okay. You know, it's going to hurt, but it'll be fine. Instead of like, oh my God, I'm never going to love again. And all women just want money and whatever, right? Were you
Yeah,
going to ask
these
something?
broke ass, worn out statements that you hear on social media all the time. What are good ways for people to love themselves? Like if they're giving themselves good self-care and they're valuing themselves, what do those people do for themselves?
Yeah, so I talk about self-care a lot in my book. Let me not say a lot because my book is a super easy read. Like anyone can read it, and I wrote it that way to make it just really easy for anyone to read, especially if they have a busy life. There's not a lot in there. There's a lot of pages, but there's only a lot of pages because it's also like a guided journal. So it's someone who's not used to journaling, they don't know how to journal, then they get this book and they really get the hang of it. But self-care, how I positioned it in the book, is something that makes you feel good only for you. So there's people out there that are like, oh, I love to volunteer. No, that's for another person. You're volunteering to give service to other people. You need to do something where it only feels good to you.
Exercise, riding a bike, meditation, yoga,
Yeah.
going on walks, leaving town.
Yeah. It could be simpler things too, like taking a long hot shower or dancing in the shower. That's something I subscribe to my female clients. Like they have to get in tune with their body.
I hope they have a non-slip surface on the floor of the shower.
You can still dance in a slippery surface.
I've done it many times in bars that have had beer and alcohol spilled all over the floor. So yes, I agree with you on that, but it can be a slippery situation.
Yeah, having like a glass of wine or something that I have my male clients do, like watch a funny movie at home by yourself. Don't expect anyone to join you. Just watch a funny movie by yourself and laugh. Laugh out loud. Let yourself laugh. And a lot of them are like, what? And I ask them to go farther with after that, you know, because in my book, there's a self-care list. And anyone listening, if they would like a copy of my book, I would love to send them a copy completely for free, just for your listeners here. But I like for the male clients to go a step further in really like letting them learn how to enjoy themselves by themselves. So I have them go watch a movie by themselves, like at the theater, right? And they're just like, well, I'm gonna look like a freaking weirdo or a creep in the theater by myself. And I was like, what? Make sure you pick a movie that you want to see. Like, don't go to a kid's movie, right? And
Just
that
sitting there in Barbie and shit. Like
yeah.
that.
That's so funny. Yeah. Or like go to a bar, right? If they like to have a drink, if that's something for them, go to a bar, but do not have the intention of picking up a woman. Like go there and sit there and just go for a drink. I don't usually subscribe the bar or prescribe the bar situation. What I'll have them do is like go out for dinner. Like a meal, pick a place that you really, and you're thinking of something funny. Your face is telling me.
I'm thinking of pork chops and steak.
Oh, yeah. So, go have a really nice dinner. Take yourself out to a really nice meal, right? And not because there's a woman there. Do it for yourself, to treat yourself and to feel good, because you deserve it. You deserve to treat yourself this way, because you deserve to do these things while you're single, not just when you have a partner. Because then they are putting a lot of importance when they do these things with a partner, and then they don't do it when they're not seeing someone, even though at times they would like to do it, but it makes them feel weird. And this creates a sense of independence, and this creates a sense of accomplishment, like, oh shit, I can do these things by myself. This feels really good. And then that leads to confidence. That's it, right? And then they show up to places differently because they know they can be by themselves. They're not looking for outside validation because they've been validating themselves from within through these actions of like other things on the self-care list. Maybe for women, like, go get your nails done. Go get a pedicure. A pedicure helps guys too. You know, just go and relax. Let somebody, you know, tickle your feet or whatever.
I need to get my petty done and shit because these claws are getting a little out of control.
Other things for men, like go to the range, but have an intention when you go to the range, right? I'm going because this feels so fucking good to me, and it makes me feel like a man because I like doing this. Go with an intention, not to be like, oh man, I'm gonna fuck shit up or whatever, right? Like go with the intention of like, I'm gonna intentionally blow off steam and I'm gonna leave it all there in the range. Or I have some other clients that
so make it therapeutic, you're saying?
Right. Make it healing for you. Like whatever you're feeling there, leave it there, right? You go for a pedicure, leave all of that's shedding and coming off of your body, leave it there, right? You go for a nice dinner, you're going to celebrate yourself. You're going to celebrate whatever accomplishments you have accumulated thus far, even if it is that you are just showing up single, showing up by yourself, right? For some people, they cannot do that. It's difficult to do anything by themselves. A lot of men are like that, actually.
I wish I had more time to do things by myself, if I'm being quite honest.
Yeah.
You know, I need to self-reflect a little bit more. You know, the other attorney in my office here, he's in the military, and they have like after action review, and I'd like to reflect because I feel like that's where growth comes from. But what I want to teach my son is to not let his happiness be tied to other people or things. I believe that we can generate our own happiness if we want to, if we know what we want, if we know what makes us happy.
Yeah. I don't think that there's anything wrong with wanting a partner and wanting to feel love. There's nothing wrong with that. The thing is that we fight ourselves with allowing that. Like some guys are like, yeah, I really love love, right? How do I want to explain this? They feel shameful or sometimes even embarrassed that they want to be in love. And some women are the same way. Like, I really want to be in love, but I can't tell anybody. Or I really want to be in love, but what if I attract someone who's going to hurt me? So I'm not going to let myself be in love. So it goes back to what you were talking about, like, do people know what they want? Yeah, they know what they want, but they don't let themselves want it. And that's the problem. And then they go through life fighting what they want.
And do you think they settle for less as a result?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Like, especially in relationships too, like, most of the time people know in the beginning, this is not my person. But they think they're like a nice guy, or she's a good woman. Yeah, I'm going to make it work or whatever. And then eventually all of the problems come out.
So they're only fooling themselves in the end of the day.
Yeah. Because the other person can feel it too.
For short-term happiness?
It could be for so many different reasons, like cultural norms, or, you know, maybe you had a baby together and you're trying to make it work for the baby, which never works. And kids always know. They always know. I don't even know why people try to do that. Just
because kids have a strong sense of genuine love.
Yes. And they can sense energy. Like, they know that you don't love each other.
Intuitively.
Yeah. And you're also robbing your children from the experience of seeing real love. Later on, you're going to get, later on, these people will get a divorce. And then the kid's going to be completely blindsided. Like, what the fuck? So, wait, that wasn't love then. Then what is this? And what happened? And, and the whole time, either the parents were pretending or they just were like being roommates, right? And sometimes this can be devastating to adults, like even adults that are like in their 40s and then their parents divorced. Like, like their whole world is shattered because they didn't understand what was happening. That was the only example they had of love. And so, yeah, I think, and the reason why we stay is so many different reasons, including, not limited to, but including like just wanting to feel desired, wanting to feel wanted. This person wants me, even though I don't want them back, even though I have nothing else to provide them. But I'm going to stay because they want me. That's not a good reason to stay. Unless, I don't know. I don't really know. Unless, there's a lot of trauma around that.
So we mentioned bad relationships, abusive relationships, manipulative relationships. What are the best ways for people to break out of those relationships and move on?
Awareness. The number one step is to be aware of how you're feeling. If it doesn't feel good and it doesn't feel good often, then there's a problem, right? Of course, in a relationship, you're going to have problems. There are going to be challenges. That's just normal. That's in every relationship, right? But when the bad is outweighing the good, then there's a problem. Can you fix a relationship? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it takes two people.
That are both aligned in fixing it.
I'm going to take that back. Can you fix a relationship on your own? Yes. Without the other person even being aware? Yes. And the way that you do that is with energy. Though a lot of the reasons why some of the fears come up. So like, I come across women that everyone has masculine and feminine energy. And this might be like too much. Maybe we might have to go, like another episode or something. But everyone has masculine and feminine energy. A lot of the times when women are afraid of love, they'll be more in their masculine. But they want a masculine man. And if you, in a relationship, in any type of relationship, right, especially romantic though, you must have the yin and the yang, right? That's how it harmonizes together. You cannot have two yin, you cannot have two yang. Even in same-sex relationships, there is always a yin and a yang, right? One is more masculine than the other.
A top and a bottom, a male and a female.
Right. So,
even though they're both female or both male.
Right. Oh, there are some masculine women out there.
I know. I've seen.
And they don't.
I've seen some chicks where I'm like, man, that chick could kick my ass.
Yeah, well.
And those range from the out of shape to the in shape. Like, you see some of these chicks that are like heavy set, shaved head and shit. Like, ooh, that bra will stop my ass.
Yeah, no, those aren't even the ones that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ones that are masculine and look like a Kardashian. Like, those exist too.
I haven't seen too many of those.
Oh, I've come across quite a few. But then they would be perfect for someone who is very feminine because they carry a lot of this masculine energy.
And do you mean genuine masculine energy or like type A type of characteristics that come across as masculine?
So healthy masculine energy is a man that is aware of, he can be nurturing and encouraging, but he also makes it his job to protect and be the provider and be the caretaker, right? Like, it gives him, he has a sense of purpose, right? And so in being feminine, it's our job to, you know, as a feminine woman, it's my job to show up very like free and energetic and passionate and loving and just, and my just like, you know, to invite and encourage the masculine, right? If I am in my masculine energy too much, then I'm going to want to do everything and he will have no purpose. If he has no purpose, he's not going to want to stay. Now we have problems, right? If he is too much in his feminine and I want a masculine man, right, then it's not going to work because I'm already too feminine. And so it's that, like, that is what's happening with like a lot of these like boss babes and boss bitches. Like, I don't need a fucking man. Like, girl, stop playing. Yes, you do. And you need one that's going to put you in your place. And that's going to be a masculine man. But you've been giving the wrong guys chances. And that's where you ended up where you are right now. But a lot of people don't want to work on themselves. They don't want to do the inner work to change.
So it's easier just to write somebody off out of hand than it is to do the hard work on yourself.
Yeah. And it's not even hard work. You just have to change habits. And a lot of people don't like change.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Break them habits.
Yeah. Well, as an entrepreneur though, like, and I feel like you have that type of career where it's you have to have an entrepreneurial spirit, right? You are always a rookie. You're always there's constant change. You have to innovate. You have to change, because if you don't change, then your business is not going to do well, right? But there are, the people out there that come across very difficult situations within relationships. It's that, like, so I had a client where she really wanted her husband to show up for her and she wanted help with the kids, but she was also trying to do everything. When you're trying to do everything, that's very masculine. It's their job to do. It's our job to support, right? It's not then you're taking his purpose away. If he has no purpose, but you still want him to do something, what do you want him to do if you're busy doing everything? Then what is left for him to do? And you're also telling him, I don't trust you to do it. I would do it myself. Do you think he's going to want to show up for you if you're showing with your actions?
Doubting him,
taking
his purpose away. Yeah.
Exactly. That you don't trust him, then obviously he's not going to want to show up for you. And the thing is that if this is your person, which is possible, you can attract your person and be in the wrong energy, they will not leave you. They will not leave you, but you will be very unhappy, right? Both of you will be very unhappy. Why do you want to live in unhappiness? Just allow yourself to be where you are. And what she wanted, she didn't even want to do everything anyway. So why do you keep doing it? But that's what Latinas do, right? Or that's what women do. They have to do everything. And it has to be done this way. And it has to be done this way and in this at this time and just all of that. And just allowing yourself not to need to be right and just be happy. Like, let him do it in the way that he does it. Just be happy that it's getting done and just let it go. Allow yourself to show up like the feminine woman. He will take care of you. Let him take care of you and you'll be okay. But there's a lot of lack of trust there. But what if he doesn't? What if this? What if that? And what if and this is the same thing that I come across with men in relationships too, where they lack boundaries and they're not showing up like a masculine man. Well, she really needed this, and so I was there for her, and then she was talking to me like this and I really didn't like it, but I was understanding of where she was coming from. No, you have to show up like a masculine man. I love you, but you can't talk to me like that. I love you and I respect you, but right now you're not acting like you love and respect me, and that's not okay. I'm gonna go. Right? And just like really putting your foot down.
You said that with ease, and I think that when people are put on the spot, they have a hard time doing those things, or they have a hard time practicing those things in action because
because of low self-esteem, because they're afraid to lose that person. But if you know your worth and you know that you're a catch, then you're gonna do it anyway. And it's doing that inner work, right? Like doing that work on like, I know I'm worth it. And that's not okay for someone to talk to me like that. It's hurtful. And she might not ever want to talk to me again. And that's okay, because that means she's not my person. Because my person would not leave. My person would love that I talk to her like that. My person would love that I put her ass in her place.
You know, I feel like I've heard people accuse others of, oh, you're being passive, or you're being passive aggressive when they remove themselves from a situation. I feel that because I know my self-worth, I'm not willing to tolerate that. I'm not going to subject myself to that kind of bullshit. So I'll remove myself from that situation. I don't see that as passive. I see that as making an active decision and being empowered and making a choice.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what the situation is, but being passive aggressive is like staying and making snide comments, right? Like that's being passive aggressive. Choosing to remove yourself from the situation is not being passive aggressive. That is choosing to remove yourself from the situation. Yeah. It's exactly what you said. It's very empowering. Like, you know what? I am not feeling respected here, and I'm going to go.
I have the top 10 secrets to success by the Investor's Business Daily, they're not as big or well known as they used to be, perhaps, or maybe they were always kind of like a second to the Wall Street Journal, but they started off, I'll make you a copy because I have one here, and I keep it where I exercise. I used to put it right by the door of my bedroom, so as I would pass it, I would see these, and I wouldn't read it all the time, but subconsciously it was there, and there's only 10 of them, so after a while you can memorize them. But one of they say that they followed successful people from many walks of life, and they found 10 characteristics that most of them had in common. And one of those things was like, beware a negative environment, and don't stick with a negative environment. Don't stay in a negative environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always felt that true love, or maybe just love in general, should be easy, and that you shouldn't have to fight it. It shouldn't be very complicated. It shouldn't focus on external things outside of the love itself or the relationship you have with somebody else. And I found that with my wife. We are both very drama-free people, and for me, I don't like drama. I feel it's an unnecessary complication. I feel it's usually over things that are not worth it, like you say, being right versus being happy. And so for me, usually love is easy. It just clicks. It's very natural.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's how I felt. Tell me, before we wrap up, just, you wrote your book. What's the title of your book?
The Massive Attraction Journal. So it's based around like the law of attraction, learning how to use the law of attraction to get what you want.
Yeah, and I'm a believer in that as well. I don't pursue, I attract. That's and I do it naturally because I don't I display who I am, and I believe that my good qualities attract in and of themselves, so I don't need to go beyond that, and I try to be genuine, authentic, and I feel that people who appreciate that, who have that in common, will want to be a part of what I'm doing, or want to work with me, or whatever have you. I've never asked somebody to send me business, but I have business in abundance because I don't really need to because of how I am, but I just feel it's so like kind of awkward or cheesy. It's like, oh, send me a deal or refer me a client or do it. Just, to me, I'm more a believer in the law of attraction. So it sounds like right away I'm looking forward to reading your book. So one more time, your title?
The Massive Attraction Journal.
The massive, like massive.
Yeah, massive.
The Massive Attraction Journal.
Yeah. To attract massively.
To attract massively in a big way.
Yeah.
Huge. the huge attraction journal. What made you want to write that?
Well, after my last breakup, I wanted to do a how-to on breakups, and I started to write it, and then I was like, wait, why am I gonna stop here? Let me just like help someone like completely, like just give them all of the keys and things that I've learned so far to get to where I am. But I am gonna be writing the other book on a how-to on breakups. I'm really excited to get started on that. It's gonna be a super, super simple and short book, like 60 pages long. Yeah, but this one it really goes along with my program. So I wanted to make it accessible to people that maybe they couldn't invest in themselves to work with me. Then they can get the book and do the work on their own. It's very self-explanatory, super easy read, like I mentioned, very easy to follow. They have access to the meditations online for free as well. So it's just something to help get the healing journey started. And if they do decide that they want to go in deeper and start, getting goals faster, then they can reach out to me. We can work together. But yeah, it was mainly to help people do or get that healing journey started if they weren't ready to invest and work with me.
I'm looking forward to reading your book on how to break up. I won't need it, but I know a lot of people who will, and I like to. They say features tell, but benefits sell. So I do. You got to read this because this will really help you out. You know what I mean? And because of A, B, and C, or X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So I look forward to hearing that and get it written down and start writing those chapters.
Yeah.
You mentioned your program. Tell us a little bit about your program.
Yeah, so I work with people anywhere from 12 months, from 6 months to 12 months. And they have 90-day transformations. And the reason why we work 12 months or 6 months is what I had mentioned earlier, that your brain is so used to finding something to stress about. So I am there holding them accountable, like their accountability coach, just making sure that they don't self-sabotage. And then it becomes something lasting. Then after 6 months, after 90 days, I'm going to be honest with you. After working with me for 2 weeks, you're a different person. But the longer we work together, the better things get for them, right? And what happens is my clients get to their goals within 90 days. After the 3 months, then the goals change. Okay, so now I want to do this. Like now I want to earn more money, or now I want to find another job, or now I want to work on the next goal, whatever that looks like. So by the year mark, they've already accomplished way more than they had ever thought were possible when we first had our first conversation. But yeah, we work on confidence. We do a lot of the trauma work. So they basically get me as a coach and as a therapist, right? And I'm an inspirational speaker, so there's a lot of motivation and inspiration that happens within the sessions too. Like, you are fucking amazing and you're doing the inner work and you're doing such a great job, and I'm so fucking proud of you, right? There's a lot of that happening during sessions, and it's important for them to receive that because that's a lot of the stuff that we didn't get growing up. So I'm happy to be there and be in their corner to support them and to get them through difficult situations through this healing journey.
Is your program for anybody?
I work with professionals and mainly people that are wanting to get to the next level. I don't work with anyone. Just because I'm just not for everyone. I don't think that I should be for everyone. I'm only for specific people that perhaps have gone through trauma but are ready to take that leap into healing and also can invest in their healing journey. Right? If you're trying to do something that you want free services, I have lots of free stuff available on social media and online and on YouTube and things like that. they're welcome to take advantage of that. But as far as my services, I don't work with anyone for free because of just the way that the program is set up. And when you have some skin in the game, then, you're going to work harder, right? If I do come across people that really, really need help and they don't have the money to invest, I do refer out. So I will find them someone to be able to help them. I never leave anyone with like no one to work with. Because I used to be, a psychotherapist in nonprofit. So I don't believe in like everyone can connect with someone who can help them at the stage in their life. And the way that my program is set up too, like it's set up to not need therapy for the rest of your life. Like the work that we do is so fucking powerful that you shouldn't need therapy for the rest of your life. You might need coaching to help you get to more goals, to get to those bigger goals, right? But therapy is not something that my clients need after working with me for 12 months. Yeah.
Are there any final words that you would like to tell people?
Yeah. Only that you are so worth it and you have always been enough.
Thank you very much for coming out and podcasting with me. I feel like I learned a lot, and knowledge is one of the things I value the most. And it's really nice to get to know you and to speak with you. We met for the first time at an event, and it's at a nightclub, and we're meeting a lot of different people. You don't get a chance to focus in and really talk with people. So, and I really appreciate your willingness to do this, because we're all busy people, and it's getting later in the evening, and, the day must come to an end, and we must do things that we have to do before that happens. So thank you for coming out here, for having a conversation with me. So what if I told everybody out there that you're already a millionaire or a billionaire?
What if?
But that would depend on what you mean by currency, right? What I mean is that we all have kindness within us. And what I believe that is the ability to acknowledge others and to lift them up and to connect with them in small ways and big. And you never know who it is that you're going to speak to. I believe that kindness is a currency that we have in abundance to invest and to make it grow and to get deeper, more meaningful things from it. Kindness is the world's most powerful resource, and we control it.
Yes.
Not the government, not big corporations. So spread it all over, make the world a better place, and tune in to the next episode of the Blessed Life University podcast. We love you, man. Peace out.